What does your actual strategy look like for hunting this time of year? Are you moving midday? Or are you hunting what just break down a day in the life of Ryan Springer during the peak of rut?
Sure. Right. Yeah. Bottom line is I'm in a tree daylight to dark. You have to put the time in. It's a matter of probability, right? Being able to hunt more hours of the day just gets you more opportunity, right? Now, where to go and, where you're going to spend that day, all those things come up, and we can discuss those, but generally speaking, hunt as many hours as you can. When you have the opportunity, sit in a tree and eat, do your business, you do what you got to do up there,
Yeah.
Definitely don't go to the truck. That's the way I look at it. It never fails, and I'm not going to take that chance. It's not worth it to me. I'm just going to stay in a tree.
Where are you switching stands midday at all? Or are you're posted up in a pinch all day, playing the odds?
Yeah. When I'm trying to focus on, let's say, the peak of the rut, right? Because that's what this conversation's about. I'm going to be hunting close to a doe group, the zone in my mind right now that I'm thinking, I know that the deer bed within 150 yards of me. There's a good bedding area on a south facing slope. It's covered in, bush honeysuckle or multiflora rose, or, it's just thick and nasty. The deer go up in there. I don't ever go up in there. Right. And I'm just on the west facing slope around the corner of it, just kind of waiting on them. They have a tendency to travel from that zone down a little ridge, you know what I mean? That comes essentially right past where I'm set up. So I'm just going to spend the time in there. Those deer are constantly moving, checking these doe groups, throughout the day. So I'm just going to stay there. I'm on a great access point, a pinch, and a lot of it too is knowing your land. You can go into a new zone and get an idea, and start seeing the sign and kind of reading it. But over the years, kind of honing in on really understanding how that property works, it makes a world of difference. It really does.
So, and then in the evening, are you still posted up in that pitch point? Or are you trying to relocate to a food source, or tell me a little bit about that?
Right. Generally, as long as I'm close to the direction of travel that I think the does are going to go that evening, right, I'm going to stay put. Mm-hmm. If they're going to turn and go a different way, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to picking up and moving. Some of the spots I hunt, I'll know where the doe groups come through in the morning. I mean, there's one ridge, they'll feed on the acorns. They'll come right up the ridge, go to bed. But then sometimes in the evenings, they'll go another way, out towards the cornfield access. That's where I may slip around, and hunt a spot like that. If I'm in a spot that I think they're going to come right back through, I'm just sitting tight.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of just using the doe group as live decoy or live bait in some form or fashion.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, that's what they're after. That's what I'm after, stick with the does, that's what I want to see when I'm getting pictures of does all summer in my spots and no bucks. I'm okay with that. In fact, that's the spot I like, right? Because I've got the does. This zone is the doe group, and the bucks will come. So that's, I'm okay with that. I really do focus on the does.
That's interesting. And what about all the folks that have gone through your guys' DIY outfitting business? Are those folks, the folks that knuckle down and hunt midday, are they killing more bucks than the guys that come in and out all the time? Yeah,
that's a good question. We're quite a bit different, I would say, than most. We set ours up really DIY, so guys get a piece of property and they get the farm, they get to hunt it for their group for their entire week. They get a day of scouting, sitting in their stands, doing whatever they want on the front end, and with a guy that wants to do that, right, they're a little bit more go-getters, I would say. They don't head back to the cabin and eat a sandwich at lunch. These guys they're after it, and due to that, I would say more than average will hunt daylight to dark. I have a fair amount of hunters that'll tell me, they have spent daylight to dark, and I'll tell you, they're rewarded, absolutely. I've talked to other ones that, they're back at the cabin eating chili midday, and who knows what they're missing, who knows what they're missing, but yes, stick it out.
I can imagine someone that's like, all right, I'm going to hunt all day. I really, really, really want to kill a big buck this year. There's probably going to be a point where they're sitting in a tree and they just feel like they're out of the game, or they're just like, am I wasting my time, or am I in the right spot? How do you tell someone, or I guess any advice of like, is there a mental checklist like, okay, this is worthwhile, and maybe they're hunting a new area, or maybe it's a spot that they do know?
Sure. Yeah. And that's kind of tough. I mean, when you're sitting there and you're not seeing the action, this is the way I picture it because I've seen it. I experienced it just this past season. When there's a hot doe, there it can suck in all the bucks from an area, right? And those now that hot doe may be one or two hollows over from me. You don't know, but all it takes is for her to move and come dragging them all with her. And that'll happen. I was hunting actually this guy last year, and sure enough, he was down below. And I'm not kidding you, that I couldn't even count the bucks. I would say it was safe to say there's 12 to 15 bucks on this one doe. And he was the largest one, right? And I mean, it was an awesome hunt. But bottom line is, how many bucks did that pull in from how far, to put that many bucks on one doe? I know the other guy on the other ridge probably wasn't seeing anything because they were all right here by me, so it can change just that quick. And they were moving, they ended up moving right up by me and came through and got a shot, but stick it out, when you're not seeing anything, things can turn on a dime. That friend of mine that shot the one well over 200, midday, 11 o'clock, 70 degrees. He's sweating, thinking, what am I out here? And here comes one 20 yards, double drop time. I mean, it was a nice one, so you got to stick with it.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Cause I say this often is it's easy to say it's October 14th. It's easy to say like, oh, I'm going to be in there hunting every day. Do you get fatigued throughout the season, or are you just mind over matter? Cause you tie some full day sits together. I think the longest stint I've ever had of like true dark to dark is 5 days. And I was gassed by the end of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. You've got to have, first of all, you have to have a comfortable tree stand, right? So that's the number one thing I get, right? Something with a nice seat that I can sit there and have some comfort all day. Just stick with it, stick the time out. It's really hard for me because usually I'm coming back from an elk hunt where I've been walking, 8 miles
completely
a day
different
for 2 straight weeks. And I come back and I sit in a little postage stamp, in my tree stand. And all I want to do is get down and walk, so it's really hard. I mean, it's quite an adjustment, but I also know that I'm not going to go walking around the property and, connecting with them. So yeah, I just stick it out.
I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm breaking these into 3 different categories, and I'm only talking about peak rut.
Right.
You can only hunt the morning, you can only hunt the midday, or you can only hunt the evening, and you have to only pick one for this year. Hypothetically.
Peak rut, midday to early afternoon.
You're picking that?
Yeah. If I'm going to miss any time, if I'm going to sleep in, right? If I'm going to miss any time, I'm going to sleep in. I mean, I would say the early mornings have been some of my least active time during peak rut, but I'll definitely hit that midday to early evening. You know what I mean? If I can catch the evening, that's great. But if I can't hunt, do a full day sit, I'm definitely hitting that midday period, absolutely.
You're in like Southern Ohio. Is that a safe generalization? Central Ohio?
Yeah, just maybe an hour from Columbus, which is in the middle. So southeast of that, just a little ways.
Okay. And so when you're talking about peak rut, what are, I guess it's the first 2 weeks of November is kind of what you would say that
generally speaking, those are always the most too popular, and it can, in my opinion, it can shift. One year, the first week might be better. Next week, second week might be, next year, second week might be better. But those are generally the most popular, most hunted 2 weeks, I would say, for people in Ohio.